Good evening. Welcome back to another episode of WealthWise. My name is Patrick, your
I'm
co-host
Jennifer
for today.
Burnham-Grubbs, and sorry.
And Jennifer Burnham-Grubbs, as always, my beautiful and very talented co-host today. Jennifer, what's new? How have you been? What's going on? It's been a minute since we've been back here. I appreciate you coming and setting this up with me tonight.
I've missed you, Patrick. I know. Summer had its surprises for both of us.
Yes.
So, we went by fast. I love fall. It's my favorite season. So I'm in my element right now. September has such a buzz to it, energy.
I'm just excited for the pumpkin spice lattes.
I know. That's you.
Too soon? Yep. How does that work exactly?
They're here now. They are here. They have landed.
Wow.
Sweet.
Starbucks. You got to be watching the stock of Starbucks. Don't we have a new CEO? I know that's what you guys are here for. At the end of the day, you folks are all here to figure what's going on financially. And like always, Jennifer and I, we have our banter. We go back and forth. But at the end of the day, we're here to help you folks make some money. And what a couple weeks we've had. Since our last episode in June, we've seen the world kind of shaken up a little while. We saw the first final cuts. Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve Bank chair, comes out last week, decides 50 basis points. That's half a percentage cut to rates.
Long awaited. People wanted those for a long time.
Right. Well, and this is the issue, right? So you've had presidential nominees, you've had every financial analyst known to man seemingly has come out of the woodwork over the last little while screaming about these rate cuts. We need them, we need them, we need them. And as usually does, the Federal Reserve Chair, puts on their favorite colored tie for the day, comes up to the mic, and I don't know. I can't tell if it's a home run yet. The market hasn't quite digested it, I think. What are you seeing right now?
I 100% agree with you. I think first of all, as we've talked about, we're in unprecedented times. So, in fact, I think before you and I spoke, I don't even think Kamala Harris was on the ballot. Right. This was a summer of the unexpected.
Absolutely.
And this has been, the last couple of years has been, even with COVID and everything, has been an economy of the unexpected, right? There's lots of people, and you were talking about this on the last episode, where we haven't had this stagflation kind of weird where you're seeing the CPI and the inflation index acting quite the way they are, and then all the other factors going on. And I think the reason things are slow to react, Patrick, is many of the thinkers are not 100% sure how to read the tea leaves because there's not a model that they can rely on where this has existed before, which is why, by the way, we're going to have our special guest later today. I think that the onus is on any person who is a consumer, who is an investor, who owns or engages with money, which, by the way, is everybody, to start to generate your own ability to read the tea leaves and get your finger on the pulse, because I don't think you can 100% rely anymore on the pundits. That's my personal point of view.
That's why we started WealthWise. The whole concept of it was, when you're turning on Bloomberg or MSNBC and you're getting your financial information from individuals, and I mean this with all due respect, but that are bought and paid for, right? At the end of the day, they are talking heads, and they are speaking the words that they hope that you're listening to and spending your money in a certain way. And, you talk about unprecedented times. We had the Federal Reserve Bank in China yesterday came out with an almost $1 trillion stimulus package. Now, I want you to put that in perspective. They got 1.5 billion people, 1.5 billion population. Some say a little less. Some say the numbers are a little bit fudged. We're not sure. But about $1 trillion is going to be thrown into their economy here. And the way that they're billing it is that it's going to be going to the poorest members of their society. China, for the last 70 years, 60 years, really, since they've become this economic juggernaut that they are, has always been a top-down economic process. This is the first time that they've sort of reached out to the common man and said, we're going to put money in your pocket. You have interest rates in the United States drop. You have $1 trillion in stimulus. The market should be going crazy right now. This should be a rocket ship that's going. Yeah, we're not seeing
too much fear from the top,
right?
Because they don't know how to digest and process this. Also, I think politically, there's a lot of division. There are a lot of people who are sure it's going to go one way and hope it goes one way, and then there are a lot of other people who really think it might go another way and hope it goes that other way. And I think they're reading a lot, which I think is, by the way, really wrong to do. But people who somehow think that politics is going to affect the economy. I really think that's really silly. I know that sounds like a bold statement to say, but I think if you look at the fundamentals of economics and the global society that we are in. It all, as is proven again and again, it's so much more of a complex nut to solve now that one person can't come in and completely impact the economy as much as they would like to think that they can. Okay.
That was very political savvy, because I thought you were going to say destroy the economy, because like, wherever you land politically on that one, that's up to you folks. But I wasn't sure if that's where it was like some person's going to come in and destroy it. You handled that one. That was very tasteful. Very tasteful.
Thank you. I'm just sending love to everyone. I hope we can all stop fighting so much. And so what I want to say is, to China's credit, and I was thinking about this morning, I think there's such a disparity. As we know, the 1% really fared really, really well in the last 6 years or so. Even during COVID, the 1% pretty much still did okay, versus there was a lot of attrition of wealth at the bottom due to the fact that the market went up 30%, but then went back down 30%, and then there was a lot of other stuff going on, at least domestically in the U.S. So I think they've figured out that unless you can feed the bottom and middle tiers a little bit more in an environment like this, eventually your own self-interest is going to suffer. And to their credit, they figured that out, because it's very, very true. Now, what I can tell you I'm seeing, because we're kind of like a little bit boots on the ground with the work we do at Quantum, we do so much work. We're in risk management, right, which is often life insurance, disability, long-term care, and employee benefits. And those are intimate, right? You can't talk about life insurance without knowing intimately what's going on with the person's finances. And whether they're making 5 figures, 6 figures, or 7 figures, which is sort of like what our clients tend to be, the breadth of it. I was noticing 4 or 5 months ago a shocking level of financial panic, a shocking level of people being strapped. Even when they're making 6 and 7 figures a year, they spent too much on their whatever it was, the remodel or something else was sort of dried up or stalled or whatever. And it was a lot of weirdly financial fear. And then we had everybody waiting for those interest cuts that were taking what felt like forever. And that was really wild. Well, I have seen in the last 4 or 5 months, thank God, a shift and a change to people finding some financial footing and some confidence, some things falling into place. I think the interest rate came at a great time, but it's almost like it came so late that people had to figure something else out before that. And most importantly, start having healthier financial practices, doing some financial housekeeping, which is extremely good, because that's, if anything, what's going to lead us to a healed economy. It's healthier financial practices.
That education piece is huge. That's going to get to our guest. She'll be on here shortly with us. Just, we'll set that up for in a moment or two time. Lynn, you're sitting back there. I see you. Look at you. But you're exactly right. And I think a lot of that comes from, anecdotally for myself, coming from what I've talked with you about, and then seeing what I've seen with, friends, family members, individuals that I deal with on business relationships. People were requiring that cut. So we're in Canada, right? So our bank has been cutting for 3 months, and now they're at the point where they can't stop. So we're in this deflationary cycle that is starting in Canada. We're seeing house prices, anything under $500,000 is selling in a reasonable time. Anything over $7, and I know that these numbers sound a little bit odd. Canada, like our real estate market, and we talked in the last episode, average home price in Canada right now is $750,000. Average, right? Now, if you look at that as the American average, that is a wildly different number. That's approximately half, about 400,000 from what I understand is the U.S. number. The issue here in Canada right now is that we took our consumer to the limit. Our average consumer debt, household debt, was at all-time highs, same as the United States. We are now at a 75 basis point cut here in the last 3 months. You guys did a 50 basis point here recently, and we can't stop. Everyone has been like, okay, now we got to wait. We got to wait because there's 3, 4, maybe 5 more cuts coming. And you've got this weird lag right now in Canada. And I think we're going to see that in the United States. The foot has come off the neck of the consumer at that 50 basis point cut. But now it's, do you want to buy the house today, or do you think there's 3 more cuts coming into 25? That's this lag effect that I'm really concerned about. Because in my opinion, just my opinion, when we see the cuts come, it doesn't stop until we see unemployment ratchet up. And then you're in the recession, right? So my concerns about recessionary fears have been, you need to see the value come down to take the pressure off the consumer. So we got a 50 basis, probably at least another 25 before the end of the year in the United States, right? But then what happens? Either we have to see massive stimulus going back into the economy, but are these numbers still really restraining? Like, let's go back to where we were a year ago. Let's go 3 years ago. COVID, right? We went down to practically negative interest rates. And then we've went up 1,500%. Well, okay, we've dropped 50 basis points. That's great. We're still at 4.5% and 5%. Like, is it still restrictive? My concern is that by the time the restrictive process comes off, you've been laid off. That's my big ticker right now with what I'm concerned about in the United States. Yes, you can afford your mortgage, but you don't have the paycheck anymore to go and pay your mortgage. So this is where, like we were talking about earlier, right, with what Jennifer does, what our guest Lynn is going to talk to you guys about here, is this is about your financial health. You have to be able to figure out a way to, whether you've got that 6-figure income now, whether you've got that 7-figure income now, what happens if something happens? What do you do? How do you keep your family fed? How do you keep your roof over your head? How do you keep the car in the driveway, right? And this is your responsibility. It's your job. It's your one job in life. You got to keep your people fed. You got to keep your roof over your head. And that's where, you know, Jennifer, with what she does with Quantum, and with Lynn, maybe this is not a bad time to jump to our first commercial, and then we'll jump back in and we'll bring Lynn in.
If you want to learn how to actually diversify and not just live in the same old matrix of outdated financial tools, reach out to Quantum Insurance Services. We'll help make you sovereign to your wealth and provide grounded advice on action steps you can take so your money and your loved ones stay secure, no matter what else goes on in the financial world. Reach out to us at www.quantuminsuranceservices.com and fill out an inquiry form to get started. Our team brings a personal touch to everything we do and truly looks forward to helping you become more wealth-wise.
Lynn! Hello!
Hello. Wait, I love that commercial, by the way. That was great.
Oh,
And well-timed, right? Like, all the doom and gloom, and then Quantum is there to give you a hand up and give you some advice. I love it.
I love
Jennifer,
that no matter what else is going on in your life, you know, and what else is going on in the world, right? And with finances, like, make sure that you're okay. I think that ties back to like what you guys were talking about right before that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And it's funny because I was thinking, this is why I love you and Questis and want you on this show. Is I was thinking about, a woman said to me recently, the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. They definitely don't teach people to develop 7 streams of income, right? And when you're not there yet, where you have 7 streams of income from your 7 investments, I think there's a way to consider your 7 streams of income, the areas of finance you're refining for yourself, whether it's your budget, whether it's your investments, whether it is your salary, whether it is your risk management, whether it is your IRA. Those still, you know, you can sort of think of it as at least 7 components on the 360 of how you create what we like to think of as the abundance equation, right? Which is just having more than you need, whether it's a little bit more than you need, right? Just having that little bit more than you need, no matter how much at that point that has to be a small amount or a large amount, the scale of it, right? It's just not being in debt, not being behind. And Questis gets that. Questis knows how to help you refine those 7 spokes in the wheel, if you want to think of it as such. So why don't you tell us a little bit, Lynn, if you don't mind, about Questis and the magic of what it offers?
Yes. So shall I introduce myself first?
Yeah.
So Lynn Reynault, I am the CEO of Questis. Questis is a financial wellness platform. We sort of combine technology and people, and our focus is on ensuring that all Americans become financially healthy, that we reduce the stress of most Americans and their financial stress, and we're really mission driven on making sure that that happens. So we think of financial wellness as kind of a continuum from, and this is exactly what you guys were talking about, sort of, you know, oh goodness, I'm using better language than before. Oh goodness, I need, you know, money today. And that's kind of at the beginning of this continuum to, I'm really in great shape. You know, I've got all of my investments and 401ks fully funded and the 529, and I'm in that, you know, moment of abundance, right? But we really are helping people to get from that lack of abundance into some form of abundance for themselves. There's no one out there that helps people focus on that tries to put together a plan. I don't say plan like the financial plan of a planner, really a personal finance plan that helps you work your way through, and it's right for you.
Well, then you You were talking a few different points there when we were talking in the green room earlier. You were saying, first of all, the education side of where we are in the world right now is so pivotal. And with what you folks are doing with Questis, it sounds like you have calculators, you have tools, and then you have people like boots on the ground that are dealing with people. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what that process looks like? Maybe kind of like an onboarding aspect. What does that look like for you folks?
So yes, so we like to connect everybody as they onboard through this with a coach, in fact, so that a coach can help you kind of connect your accounts, work through the platform. You don't need a coach necessarily. If you're a Jennifer and you are a DIY expert and you just want to replace every calculator and every spreadsheet that you have out there, Questis is for you. Put it all in one place, access it all. Everything from visibility into every type of financial account that you have, to understanding your budget and spending trends and asset allocations, lifetime income calculators, all of it. There's even goal setting in there. I have 2 kids. I want to send them to college. What do I need to put aside? Set that in your goal. You can pick the financial institution, the university that you want them to go to if you have something in mind. We actually connect straight into the registrar's office and can update immediately, what that tuition plus books plus living and all that kind of stuff is. And we'll let you know what you need to save every month in order to send your child there. We can also then connect it to an account you already have and say, okay, based on, what you've got saved already, this is now what you need to spend. And then people might say, look, I just don't have that. Or how am I going to get that? And that's where we like to connect them to a coach, because these are not, there are financial advisors out there in the world that, want to help you understand where to allocate your money and what investment strategy you might have. But the folks that understand your day-to-day living needs, that's where our coaches step in. And they can say, look, maybe there's some other hack out there for you. I've got friends who have done 2 years at community college and then went to the school of choice and only paid for 2 years of that full tuition. And they still got that, that name of that brand name or that university on their CV, right? And so they got that, they got the best of all. Those are just like small types of sort of hacks that a coach can then kind of help you through. So that coach can help you walk into it and figure out where you are, what you need for like the most basic user, or it can help, with these kind of hacks for people that are far more advanced in their thinking and understanding.
I think what's great about Questis is the fact that it is so nitty gritty and real, because there's always financial advisors and planners who are happy to help you if you've got $500,000 in assets or more. Yeah. And that's often their minimum before they want you. And then,
that was the impetus. That was the whole genesis behind it. The original platform was developed by some retirement and wealth advisors who were managing folks with a lot of money. They felt there was a whole community of folks that they weren't reaching. Certainly folks within the plan, their plan sponsors and plan advisors that they couldn't reach and couldn't scale to because they just weren't, investing enough for them to be able to reach them. And they thought there's got to be a better way to help these folks along. And that's where the platform the genesis for the platform came along. And that was long before the idea of financial wellness was even, an idea. That was in sort of 2014, 2015. By 2019, 2020, you had people thinking, yeah, financial wellness, I've got some education out there. And now we've got there's a sort of full suite of services and products that can be caught under the umbrella of financial wellness. And we like to sort of sit across all of those things and help people figure out what's the right thing for them.
Well, Lynn, I think it's such a unique facet, and I love anyone that's doing the education, the financial education piece. It's a special place in our hearts here at WealthWise, as well with Soaring Profits. It is such a hard situation to have with most people, the discussion, right? And YouTube has proliferated the media aspect of the talking heads telling you, and we talked at the top of the hour with, these people at the end of the day, they're making money off their recommendations. They're shorting when they're telling you to this company's awful, and they're going long when they're telling you that it's fantastic. There's a lot of money being made in the talking heads, and that's why we want to do something different. And when we can have someone like you and the CEO with Questis, I think it's a really cool relationship that you can get your verbiage and what you're doing with Questis out to people. And the tools having someone with the boots on the ground that can understand the unique problem. You know, I wouldn't have thought that that would be the first one. Where do I go with my college planning for my kids? But it's like, yeah, like I've got a 15-year-old daughter. To me, it's like I'm going to have to write a check. That's how I've just done it, right? That's my thought of planning right now. But it's one of those things that, like, yeah, if that's not where you are financially, that could be daunting. Absolutely daunting if I don't do this in a planned way over the next 5, 6, 7 years in an appropriate way. I love that you guys are providing those tools. So you folks started 2014. You see the landscape change over the last little while here with influencers and all that sort of thing. What have you folks been doing? How are you changing the financial world one day at a time with each client? What is your sort of pitch for individuals to sort of say, I think I should give Questis a call?
Yeah, again, it's really, we're hyper focused on what's right for you, right? And whether you're a do-it-yourself expert and really want to dive in and have a, you know, sort of one-stop shop for all of your, you know, personal finance tools with an expert or a person to kind of share ideas and kick ideas off of, that's great. If you are just starting out and you can't figure out how to get out of that, oh man, I get to the end of the month and I still don't have enough, even though I make a lot. You know, I mean, my husband and I, we have 2 C's in front of our names and we still get to the end of the month and can't figure out why we still haven't gotten enough, you know, out of our paycheck. So everybody can use that sort of, where do I start? How do I open that, you know, dirty drawer that's down there and kind of face the thing? And that's what we sort of, we open the dirty drawer for you. We're very empathetic in how we help you approach that dirty drawer and get you on your way. It's like I had said earlier, it's like somebody, you know, my mother going to the gym, she's 82, she stands on the treadmill, she puts it, or the elliptical, she puts it at level 1 and works out for 45 minutes and doesn't break a sweat.
That's good.
You know, not going to happen. But if you put a coach and the platform kind of next to her that understands what she ate for breakfast, you know, what her health restrictions are, what she might eat tomorrow for breakfast and things like that, then suddenly you've got a plan that helps her get into better shape.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and it's so crucial. I still, you know, looking at sort of the tea leaves like we were talking about earlier, is that there are still going to be major headwinds. The uncertainties that are coming down and will come down after the election and long into 25. There are many things that we just have not figured out from an economic perspective moving forward. And you have to be taking in advice, right? It's, you know, the old grandpa adage, you know, you've got 2 ears in one mouth. It's time to listen. It's time to educate yourself, and it's time to take in from everywhere. There's going to be lots of pundits. There's going to be lots of people that are going to have opinions on things, and take them in. Learn from them. Yeah. Learn why those opinions are out there right now. But that's where you have to be continuing to educate yourself. And Questis, I think, those tools, like breaking down how to go out and, you know, your mortgage calculators, your wealth creation calculators, those are worth their weight in gold. Because now you got a goal, right? You had a number in mind. Oh, I got to get $1 million so I can retire. It ain't enough, right? And when you
this method doesn't really work, right?
No,
like, I think it's right. You know, that's like put it down. You can, but getting it to paper is so hard and it's so overwhelming for people. And that's really, you know, most people say in this category, people just need to change behavior. They've got to spend less, save more, and change behavior. And our view is that that's really hard to do. And you just can't expect people to do that. You've got to help them along the way, and you've got to make it super easy for them.
It's like putting grandma on Ozempic.
Coffee before she gets on the treadmill and be like, I got you too. I have a harness. I would add to your point about the uncertainty. I really believe it is a time to get your financial house in order. I feel like when there is uncertainty, my go-to is risk management, right? What does risk management mean? It can mean a lot of things, but it's a concept of always prepare for the worst as you also hope for the best, right? That's just overall. So instead of hoping the Fed's going to make another cut, because it might not, right? Or instead of hoping the market's going to do great, because it might not. It's like, what levers can you pull today? You can figure out your profit and loss for your own household and figure out where you can maximize, where you can improve, where you can get efficient. You can get data, you can get goals. I really believe it is a time for every level of person, even corporations, to be getting their financial houses in order, which I actually think is the gift of this uncertain time. is before you could really fake it. You didn't have to be an excellent company. You could get $20 million thrown at you, or maybe $200 million thrown at you as a tech startup, and it did not matter because there was so much money flying around. With the tightening, actually, you might actually have to have a decent concept before somebody's going to give you anywhere between $20 and $200 million, which is as it should be, by the way, if you ask me. And that is a gift, because there was a lot of ugly excess and waste in the system that wasn't connected to value. And so the financial order concept is where, going into September and beyond, going into this election cycle, you want to make yourself, however you can, not dependent on something outside of yourself too much in order to be able to be well and happy no matter what's going to happen, because we are in an uncertain time.
Absolutely.
I mean, the reality is, you talk about these, the rate cuts too. This is stuff we get, questions all the time. Like, how does this affect me? How does this affect me? The reality is, like, the average American is not going to see the effect today, right? We've been anticipating, but that is coming, like, that's going to be months down the line before you have, the smallest bit, that it affects you. And it's really like, it's a snowball that's going to just build over time, but or a boiling frog or whatever, however you want to look at it, it's time built. It's not today. But people are, and you have to be prepared. You can't just hope and pray that, that cut is going to come and my life is going to be better. Although that would be really nice, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be like the magic wand that the Fed has? That'd be all right. And there's a lot of people, I think, Lynn, to that point, is that a lot of people they think that, the Fed's cut, it's magic. And, we're all in. The cutting cycle is going to put us all in this market right now. And the problem is that historically speaking, when the Fed starts to cut, they cut too late. They cut too little, and then they have to cut in big ways. And usually that is the beginning of major recessionary tones. And those of you that have watched here with WealthWise and then my show with Financial Fitness, these rate cuts, I am not convinced are for the right reasons, right? We haven't seen the unemployment rate rocket, but we had 850,000 jobs that weren't there in August. That should be concerning. Right? Like, the numbers didn't add up in August. So I think that's where, and we're going to get to a couple questions here from some of our viewers, but I think that's where that uncertainty comes from, is that, we've seen the Treasury front end bonds. We've had a lot of money go into the market while we're, cutting, like we're tightening, but we're exiting through the bond market and loosening. So it's this bipolar, irrational market sense right now, and people are concerned. You don't know. Am I all in? Am I all out? Am I sitting on the sidelines? Do I go to bonds? Do I go to savings? And maybe, James, that's a great time to jump into our questions here, because I think it sort of goes to that. So we have our first comment from Emily. Thank you so much for an insightful episode. As a young professional starting my career, I find it quite challenging to navigate the current, no doubt, Emily, economic climate. Your practical approach to wealth management is exactly what I need. She must have been talking to Jennifer on this one. That must have been to Jennifer.
I love that.
So question, could you provide some specific strategies for young professionals who are just beginning to invest, and what are the best first steps to take in this unpredictable market? You want to jump there?
I know that, Lynn can't really speak to this because Questis is not going to be selling any product. It's not going to be giving it any advice. Its whole job is to be agnostic and not to be trying to sell you something on the back end. So just because she has so much integrity, I know she's not even going to want to touch this. I have no problem doing it because I'm allowed to have opinions, and I have them. And I think it's great for women to feel confident enough to have some opinions sometimes too. So I'll just go ahead and start this one, and feel free to add, Patrick, if you want. My personal opinion is go to Vanguard. Set yourself up a mutual fund. You cut out as many middlemen as possible and just go to their time horizon 2070 or whatever you want, and don't put all your eggs in that basket. If you have a 401k and they match, you put in just as much as they match. Don't put more than that, because there's better places for the rest of it. And personal opinion here, disclosure, right? If you're very young and healthy, I think becoming self-sovereign to a personal cash value life insurance policy is like totally where it's at, because you can put $2,500 or $3,000 a year into a cash value policy that's correctly designed. You would absolutely have to get good advice on how to do that properly, because that's a whole other ball of wax. And if you do that, you will also end up with millions of dollars and guaranteed death benefit and tax-free growth like a Roth IRA, because you're so young and healthy. It's so darn cheap for you. So I'd say those would be the three things I would do.
I just wish
No,
I had somebody like you talking to me when I was 24, 25. Right. You know, we look at people who, you know, people don't contribute to their 401k and all these things. And it's either because they're young and dumb, and that was me once when I was 24.
But we had so much fun, Lynn. I had so much fun. We had so much fun.
I had great wardrobe. I went on lots of vacations. I was living in the moment.
Yeah.
Or I didn't understand it. Or I had too much high interest debt, you know, in front of me, right? Those are sort of 3 reasons people don't start to invest or do things early on in their careers. But it's great. I mean, this advice is amazing. I would also add, though, try to understand, set goals for yourself before you start just jumping into investment, right? Like your investment strategy really has to depend on what your kind of long-term goals are for you. And that's a big step to take for a young person, but, you know, try to lay out those goals first and try to figure out, then your strategy can fall from there.
Absolutely.
You're so smart. You can't know where you're going to head if you don't have a map or you don't know what destination you want to arrive at. You're right.
Strategy, then the tactics.
That's it. Well, and again, going off of that, if if we're talking Emily there, I would say, the best advice that I ever got was own assets, rent or lease liabilities. And it goes back to Lynn's comment there, is that, you can go and you can buy the beautiful purse and the nice shoes and the fancy car. At the end of the day, it's all depreciating. As soon as you take it out of the store, it's lost value. So go out and own things, own assets that are going to appreciate in value. They're going to go up in value long term. So whether that's property, whether that's, again, investing like Jennifer was saying, those are the smart moves. And that's why you're talking to people from Questis and Quantum. You're having these people that are out here today. They're giving you that advice. But that would be my thing, is that if you can break it down that simply, own appreciating assets, rent or lease wherever you're living, whatever that looks like, anything that you can't make money off of, lease it.
Hallelujah. You're the first person who succinctly explained why you should not be buying Prada handbags. Period. Until you're in your 40s.
I mean, I'm not plugging
in. You have lots of money. Do not buy a Prada handbag. I heard the stupidest thing once in New York. They were like, it's an asset. I was like, it's not an asset. You're never going to sell it.
It's the same reason you shouldn't buy art, for it to appreciate, right? Just buy it because you love it and it's a sunk cost. Goodbye, the end, right? Some people, yes, I have a few Louis Vuitton bags that I'd love to sell one day and make my money on, but no way, I just love them, so I'm going to sit with them.
Yeah. Well, that takes us to the next one. So I appreciate the detailed analysis on current market trends. Robert's probably talking about our last episode. We did some chart analysis and kind of jumped into that. And the potential risk associated with overvalued stocks. Got to remember, we were talking back in June and July here. The market was arguably at the top. In comparison to where we are now, we've had pretty much a pullback over that little time. Overvalued stocks. Your discussion on AI and tech stocks was particularly enlightening. I have been very pro AI technology. I have been very concerned about the asset classes related to it. For instance, NVIDIA, we've seen rocket ship. We've also seen massive pullbacks in the last little while that have been going on too. So, there's pros and cons to each. Everything that goes up will come down. If it leaves 60 or 70% on the table, that's fantastic. If it leaves 400 or 500% on the table, that's fantastic. But when you're reaching all-time highs on speculative at best plays right now, we have to be concerned about that. So I'm glad that he was able to do that. So his question, given the potential for a market correction due to overvaluation in tech stocks, i.e. NVIDIA, not that I maybe have any plays on NVIDIA maybe slowing down here of late, what are your thoughts on reallocating part of the existing portfolio into more stable investments? Which sectors do you believe have the most potential for stability and growth in the next 2 or 3 years? Jennifer, let's jump into that one.
First of all, I love this awareness that we have some potentially high highs and that those can't last forever. I think that's always very, very good. For some reason, people seem to forget that all the time, and I just think it's so weird. I don't get it.
Yes.
I love the concept of play with the house's money is sort of like, if you're at a really good high, recoup part of it, harvest part of it. Right. There's no real harm in that. If you think through it logically, there's really not a lot of harm, because if you really believe it's going to continue to go up and you harvested part of it, you're going to make up what you harvested anyway. And if it does go down, you'll be glad you harvested a part of it while you were still up. So logically speaking, there's no harm in harvesting a little chunk or a sizable chunk when you're starting to get that feeling like this seems pretty high to me, right? Because there's always going to be other places. You don't have to just be in tech. Now, the second part of that, What sectors do I think have most potential in the next 2 or 3 years? This is the kind of question I take time at night. It's several hours of time with me thinking, putting my thinking cap on, looking privately at my portfolio, trying to guess, reading articles, trying to be an early detector of obvious things. Like when Boeing was having all these problems 6, 7, 8 months ago, I was like, and so seeing tea leaves that to your obvious signs, something probably may not continue to go well, and then incorporate that data. But that is really our work to do privately as investors, because a friend of mine likes to say, by the time you're hearing about it on CNN, it is way too late for you to make the money that others made on this deal,
Absolutely. And, that's why when we were looking to put the show together, you were the person that we brought to the table, is that it's because you do lose sleep overnight, making sure that your portfolio is in a good position, but as well as you're financially planning for the people that are trusting you their money. You realize how important that is, the sacrifices that they're making on a daily basis for you to help them through that process. So I love that. I think that's a fantastic answer, and it really goes to who you are and the relationship that you and I have had over the years and what I've been able to watch you and do. For myself, again, I'm not convinced we are out of this recessionary headwind in any way, right? On our last issue, we talked about the stagflationary aspects that are still in the economy. So, what are the things that are going to hit? You're going to get consumer sentiment. You're going to consumer stocks. We look at, Nike. Nike's been hammered. You look at, Starbucks over the last little while, had some rally and then has pulled back heavily again. These consumer staples are not in the greatest situation. And then you go to housing. What's Home Depot? What's Restoration Hardware? What are these mainstays doing right now? And if you're looking at a thriving market, the first area that I look at is your commodity sector. So since the 50 basis point, drop, we've seen, copper rally slightly. We've seen aluminum now that we've got this $1 trillion out of China over the last 2 days here. Is it enough? Is it the floor? I'm not convinced there yet. So where do you put your money? In my opinion, I'm a real estate guy. I still think that you're going to be buying at a relative value that is out there. You can buy cash flowing properties, especially in the United States. And you can make that asset work. You can write down depreciation on it. You have tax implications that are very different in the way that you probably manage your income right now if you're not in real estate. There are so many opportunities and options that are coming down the pipe that way. The market, I think you've got to be investing with individuals like Jennifer. Look at your life insurance pieces. You have to be planning for the worst case, because we're not out of that woods yet. We're seeing inflation drop. We're not seeing the growth aspect yet, because we should be. As inflation drops, we should be seeing this growth momentum kick in. I don't know if we're going to see that the way that we are. And if stagflation potentially is the worst thing that can happen to us, that's a very scary thing, because then you start to see massive unemployment. And that's sort of the next factor, that if that domino falls, we're in a scary position. And you have to put yourself in the right mind's eye to do that. And that's educating yourself with like what Lynn's doing, and having a background in your safe risk off portfolio with what Jennifer's doing. So
I just want to add, Patrick, I appreciate what you just said about sort of like watching out for that over reliance on just the stock market and just
100%.
in general. I think that is like one of the fundamental flaws that the national global economy is very vulnerable because of the over reliance on that. When you diversify on a macro level into various sectors, we like to think of it as like the real estate, the stock market, and then assets such as cash value life insurance, bonds, annuities, CDs, things that are totally non-correlated assets. Then you have the stability that, allows you to weather climate change. That's seasons.
Yeah,
seasons.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Allows you to weather seasons with greater stability, which I think, again, what Questis helps people do is actually like understand enough about finance on an intuitive level and on a practical level where they can begin to connect the dots and actually cogently see some of the different sides of money, because we mostly only get taught to think about the stock market. And when you can diversify on a macro level, you're just going to be better off. Because you're right, there's so many other places to be making money in different ways than just the stock market.
Absolutely. James, why don't you throw the next question up there, pal? There you go. So Linda, as a retiree, well, this one certainly goes to what Jennifer specializes in, making sure that that money's there when you're walking at the door. I'm always looking for ways to protect my savings and ensure a steady income. Your episode provided some great insights into risk management and diversification. Linda's question is, I'm particularly interested in the concept of using bonds and CDs for stable returns. Can you elaborate on how to balance these with some higher yield investments to maintain a good overall return while minimizing risk? This is Jennifer. This is your here's the lob. Yeah. You got it.
So here you go. Yeah. Listen, Linda, you don't have to do it yourself. Just get an indexed annuity. So an indexed annuity, which I think it's really good for you to do some research and learn about an indexed annuity, Linda. An indexed annuity is going to go ahead and guarantee you some minimum returns, sort of like a bond and CD is going to. Mm-hmm. And then it's also going to provide you upside protection, and it's going to insulate you from downside risk, which is why I love index products so much. And if you're post-retirement age, you need to be looking at an annuity. That is one of the best ways to guarantee yourself lifetime income, that's stable income that's going to be there, that you can't not have. If you put it in the market at this point and try to get higher yield investments, you're going to risk some major losses, which could really negatively impact you. And if you're going to try to just use bonds and CDs, well, I have good news, bad news. When the Fed cuts rates, which is great, it also means that your bonds and your CDs are going to start delivering lower returns pretty soon. So if you're going to try to chase that yourself, it's a lot to try to do. So just look into a really good, Allianz has a great indexed annuity. They're Athene. And annuities have gotten really, really competitive right now because interest rates were high. So that's something to really look into for you specifically if you're post-retirement age, because you have to take minimum distributions anyway. They got to put them somewhere. That's what annuities usually are for, but just you got to know the right kind of annuity to use. So that's what's hard about it.
I love this. You guys, you realized that your first question was somebody like starting out, young professional, and then this is Linda at the other end of her career here. That's fantastic. By the way, we love these too. I mean, these spectrums are so great. We help people figure out what their long-term goals should be and thinking about money for the first time. And the Lindas of the world who are like, wow, I'm living on a fixed income. Oh my God, my life has completely changed and my whole strategy needs to change. And there's a whole other side to what Linda should be thinking about, not just these, this piece of it, of how to sort of live her life and optimize that sort of fixed income that she's living on now.
Absolutely. And go ahead, Jen. I'm sorry.
No, Pat, go ahead. I was just going to mention actually something about the promo offer Lynn has made available just for people. If it's okay, I'll talk about
Absolutely, yeah.
Because you are so right. Like someone like Linda, just like somebody like Emily, really needs a Questis app. And so I just want to thank you, because before coming on the show, I asked Lynn, what can we do? Because normally Questis is only available to companies. It's an employee benefit. It's a wonderful employee benefit. I know about it because Quantum does employee benefits, right? It's normally not available to just individuals, but God bless Lynn, she has decided to make available an individual promo code, basically, so that even if you are just you don't have an employer who sponsors Questis for you, you can get Questis and pay for it as an individual, and it's like crazy cheap, and the ROI is ridiculous, and they're not going to sell you anything on the back end, which no other financial app that I know of in the world does, and it gives you free unlimited financial coaching, hands-on with live people, unlimited for free, which again, no one else in the world does. Yeah. So if you're interested in that, just put it in the chat that you're interested with like a hashtag Questis, and we will find you and we will get you personally delivered that special code that Lynn has so generously decided to make available to followers of WealthWise. Because you're right. She needs this just as much now as Emily needs it when she's in her 20s. Right.
Yeah. No, it's. I think it's fantastic, and you're never too old to understand your money a little bit better, right? And I think that's what it boils down to, is that everyone has questions. It doesn't matter if you're 15 and you opened up your first bank account and you're rubbing those two pennies together, or you're 104 and you're trying to figure out where it's going to go for the kids. There's so many questions, and it's ever changing. Policy changes all the time. The way that we manage things, tax implications, all of those things. And Lynn, first of all, I want to thank you very much for joining us tonight. It's a pleasure to hear that there's these new ways of doing things out there. Here we are, we're trying to educate through WealthWise, but you're truly innovating. And I think that's amazing. You can get to a generation of people that are going to be very app heavy, right? Like they want that technology in their hand. They want to be able to reach out and touch somebody and have those questions and gain that knowledge base. So Lynn, thank you so much. I think it's fantastic. Jennifer, as always, you kill it. Every time we do one of these, I love doing them with you.
Patrick, I just love working together.
I appreciate it. From me, folks, I think we're best to start wrapping it up here. Like I said, we've had a very busy summer. Hopefully we can hit the ground running, do these episodes on a more regular basis. We were trying to do them on a very regular basis. Then I tried to kill myself off at a boat, apparently. So it's been a busy summer. But folks, make sure you're liking, subscribing, and sharing this. When you folks share this, when you send this to somebody that you love and care about, I know we're about 45 minutes into this one, we're a little bit longer, but we got Lynn, so we're excited to be here. But it's when you share this, you're not just sharing a video, you're sharing a way of thinking. You're sharing a new way of thinking. And whether that's your kids, whether that's your partner, whether that's someone in your family that's maybe struggling to find out what's next for them in this process where we go right now, you're giving them a light at the end of the tunnel because they're thinking about what their finances are. And Questis, I think, is a great tool. Make sure you comment down in the section there. We will get that information to you. James is likely typing away right now with all the comments that are flying in there. So from me, folks, Jennifer, Lynn, it's been a pleasure, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much.